And okay, now you're live. So yes, the board is back in. They've completed and adjourned their executive session. And John Spear was going to make a motion.
Okay, I move that effective January 8th, 2021, that Terry Baines be hired as town administrator.
February, John, sorry, February 8th.
Yes, February 8th. I'm sorry. I wrote February 8th.
I know you did.
I further move that effective February 8th, 2021, that Baines be appointed to the statutorily required municipal offices of town clerk, treasurer, tax collector, general assistance administrator, and freedom of information officer, with terms ending after the first select board meeting subsequent to the 2021 annual town meeting. I further move that Baines' weekly salary be $1,153.29 based on a 40-hour plus work week, and that the town weekly contribute $87.88 to a retirement account mutually agreeable to Baines and the select board, and that Baines shall be entitled to all other employee benefits as are currently available under the town's personnel policy.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Jan,
Gaudio, aye.
Wright's aye.
Spear, aye.
Great.
And then John, for the minutes of this, just that was pretty specific. So if you could send me what
Yeah.
you had, right? It looked like you were reading it.
I will. As a matter of fact, I'll volunteer to do the minutes of these meetings if you'd like, Owen. If you could just tell me what time we went into executive session.
Absolutely. We went in at 10:22, but I can, I'll also, when I'm done, I've been taking notes. I'll send them to you.
Yeah, because I know you got a lot on your plate.
Yep. No, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do we pick up with the personnel policy?
Well, we left off, I think on page 5.
Did we want to get those minutes out of the way so we don't forget them at the end?
Oh, yeah.
Just a question.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm okay with that. Did you get, John, I just had some very minor edits on your 28.
Yeah, I will change those and send out revision 1. So if you would move to approve revision 1. I will say this, Jan, on the public works thing, we tabled it at the first meeting, and then at the subsequent meeting, we tabled it indefinitely.
So was this the first meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so your words were right then.
Yeah.
That's where I was confused.
I mean, you're right, but we did it at the next meeting.
Okay. Got it. And
Which, Owen, I haven't volunteered to do the minutes for that one.
the next meeting, I guess according to me, we've got a January 5th meeting. I know you've got the January 7th meeting minutes here, but I don't think we've done the January 5th one yet. And then I also have a December 9 one that I'm not sure we've done, but that's just for other information. So I will move, I had no changes to the January 7th draft. So I will move that we accept the minutes of December 28th as revised, and the minutes of January 7th.
Second.
Any discussion? No, all in favor, Wright's aye.
Audio aye.
Spear, aye.
Okay,
I will get those revisions to the 28th. And once I get that done, I'll send the 7th and the 28th to you guys and to Owen to put on the website.
Great.
all right. So as we as was suggested last time, I did send the disciplinary language to Kristen. I have not heard back from her.
Yeah.
So,
I think we left off, didn't we leave off with health insurance?
Yeah, we were up to jury duty on page 6, according to my draft I sent you. I did add a paragraph in on earned paid leave. And then after I did that, I think I actually wrote down on my own notes, I said, as I read through that earned paid leave, is that just another word for vacation? I said, is this vacation by another name? Because it sounded like earned paid leave was really just vacation time, normal. So
My sense is you can, I have to go back and read it again, but my sense you could take it for any reason you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, if you're sick, you could say, well, I'm not coming in because I'm sick, but you don't, my sense is you don't even have to, I don't know. I mean, and that's a question. Should we, I guess I'd like to read it again. I'm wondering if we should sort of define, I mean, if someone's going to call in sick because they're sick, that happens immediately. But if someone's going to take a vacation day or a vacation hours or something, that should be scheduled in advance. So I don't know if our policy should address that.
Well, if you look at the last Maine Town and City, the January edition on page 33, they had under legal notes, they had a section called correction to the paid leave law. In the original that we read, it said employees must give at least 4 weeks notice of their intent to use paid leave except for an emergency, illness, or other sudden necessity. And then this was corrected. They said this is not correct. It should be written as employers may require employees to give up to 4 weeks notice of their intent to use paid leave except for an emergency, illness, or sudden necessity. So it leaves it to us, I guess, as the employers, as opposed to being in the law.
And that was my sense then, and I haven't seen that update, but I just thought I didn't have a problem with that. My sense is if someone's sick, I think it should be immediate. You just can call in and say, right, I got a little bit of leave, I'm sick, I'm going to take today off or 4 hours off or whatever.
And that covers it.
To do a vacation, I think it would be nice to have a little notice. You don't want someone calling up and say, and I'm thinking mainly of the per diems, someone calling up and saying, geez, I'd like to, I'm going to take 4 hours of vacation this morning. You know what I mean? I mean, it's one thing if you're sick, but so I don't, I can't, I think we need to work on that a little bit. That's my thought.
Yep.
I'm having trouble, is there a way to make the print bigger?
On the screen share? Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
and then
I
just,
can't read it. My old eyes.
Yep. And then Phil just, I had that that magazine. He just made a copy of that section and scanned it. So I'll email that to you all so that you have that in your inboxes for future discussions. That language Jam was referencing.
Yeah, slip down if you would, Owen, on that page, down to page 6. That should be it's kind of a placeholder, John, that I put in there.
Yeah.
Keep going. Yeah, right in there.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, see the blue section?
Yeah. Owen, could you make it even bigger? I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
There you go.
Yeah, now we're getting to my.
That's good. There we go.
That's getting old is a bummer. Yeah, I think I would anticipate that we're going to hear the ins and outs of the paid leave situation in MMA and perhaps even from the state all through this year.
Oh, I agree.
They're going to be what about this? What about that? So
Yeah, I
Question
agree.
how do we want to anticipate, things that may get clarified? I don't know. I just think that we want to stay simple right now.
Yeah, my intent
Law.
was to just add that other sentence in there that basically, after we talked about it, that we either were going to require employees to give up to 4 weeks if it wasn't emergency or illness or sudden necessity, or not. And
Yeah,
that was,
and that might do it for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What's interesting
a
is
question immediately comes to my mind, it says employers who work more than 120 days in a calendar year. I don't know how they're defining if you work an hour, is that, I don't know what a day is in terms of 120 days. My sense is this is going to have the biggest impact on the per diem people. I don't know if any of the firemen would work 120. My sense is they wouldn't, but I don't know that. And I don't know how their time is tracked. Maybe, I don't know if Phil could have I guess first thing we need to do is find out how that day is defined. Is it an 8-hour day, or is it if you work any time that day?
Well, and this is kind of what we ran into prior to the turnover for the year. We reached out to Trio, and the feedback we got was there's nothing really for the town to do. We don't necessarily set up our own thing. Trio will accommodate for the new law within their system. And we've been given some updates and some patches and things. And my understanding is we're basically just going to have to manage it through that to the best of our ability. And then as state law or things get clarified, Trio should be adjusting on their end for it all to be tracked through the same program.
Yeah. But I am assuming that some of the per diems work more than 120 days in a year.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. I thought that would be the case, but.
Yeah, it's interesting because a day, I think the way you're talking about it, John, a day could literally be an hour of work if it was in a given 24-hour cycle.
Yeah, and I'd like to find out if there's a definition for what a day is, I mean, if it's 8 hours, the only people that may be affected at all by this would be the per diems.
Well, if you go down toward the bottom of that paragraph, you see that 1 hour of paid leave is accrued for every 40 hours worked. So it sounds like if you only work an hour a day, you'd have to work 40 days, basically.
40 days, yeah.
Or you got 40 hours.
But if you don't work 120 days in the calendar year, you're not entitled to it all. That's the first threshold you got to cross.
Right.
So you could work. I mean, if it's an 8-hour day or a 6-hour day or whatever it is, if you work 365 1-hour days, you wouldn't even cross the threshold.
Well, and just I brought this up when we kind of went over some of this stuff before, in our last work session on this. I was specifically talking about how prescriptive and descriptive the health benefits and stuff for the shellfish warden. So just kind of building on that, there is now an earned paid leave law. I might just suggest that instead of actually describing this 120 days in the calendar, 1 hour for every 40 hours, that we just simply reference that there is an earned paid leave law and the town will follow it. And then, because the legislature might change that, they might up or down the 120-day threshold. Do we want to have to be adjusting our town personnel policy based on what they do, or do we just want to have a reference, and then as they change it over time, our personnel policy says we follow the law? That's basically what it would say.
Well, that requires the employee, of course, to have the law, have access to the law. So are we going to print the law out and then have them have to read the law? Because that's a lot harder to read on. This paragraph, his words are taken right from the law, but I kind of put them in but I would say a little more plain language.
No, I understand what you're saying. And yes, I mean, folks would maybe need to be provided with, additional information. It's just a kind of one of those, instead of having to always react to what a separate governmental body is doing, you're just referencing the fact that we now have to follow that law. It was just food for thought. I understand what you're saying. You've done a general summary, but it's just seeing the kind of half schizophrenic nature of state legislatures or federal government. They could change these things, and I just wouldn't want to have to see us constantly going back to this and doing slight changes because of what the legislature did.
Yeah, but that's true of virtually everything in here.
Probably.
Yeah, no, and that's why I kind of brought it up. It was just one of the
Yeah.
things that you learn from your examples. Like if it's described and changeable by a separate body, maybe we're just simply referencing that. And if someone wants additional information, that's part of our office's job. Hey, I want this, I want X, Y, and Z. We go and we find it. What's going on with minimum wage? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? And we source that information and get it out to the employees as needed.
I'll volunteer to research and see if I can research if there is a definition of the day, of what a day means.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, and Jan, I like your thought of adding that other.
Yeah.
4 weeks may be excessive. I assume we can have it less.
I would think so, since we have the option of putting it in there at all. I think we'd certainly have.
Yeah, and didn't it say up to?
Um,
I did forward it to you gentlemen. So or at least that summary from page 33 that Jan was referencing.
I think when you read it, Jan, you said up to, but I could be.
That's what it says in writing.
Actually, hang on one second, gentlemen.
up
I'll
to 4 weeks notice. So we can shorten it.
so this is it right here.
Yeah, down on the bottom left, is where I'm referring to it. Yep.
So
Yeah,
this
the second-
area and this
Second
area.
paragraph, yep. You can see where it comes down where it said, but this is not correct. What should have been written was kind of in the middle of that paragraph.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep.
I would be favoring, I think 4 weeks is excessive. I'd be in favor of shortening it to 2 or 10 days or something like that.
I would agree.
I'd support 2 weeks.
Okay,
I think for regular planned leave, planned vacation, 2 weeks.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay, well, I'll add that in. The only other thing I had on that paragraph really was, if you notice, the paragraph at the top title has bereavement, then leave of absence, and then earned paid leave. There's nothing in the paragraph that even talks about leave of absence. So I don't, but we do have a paragraph C that talks about leave without pay.
Right.
So I don't know if we should change the title up above to leave without pay, or change the paragraph C to leave of absence.
Or
I
to a
think
whole new article.
no. He's just saying change one so they can.
No.
I think it's 6 1/2 dozen of the other.
Yeah, you don't need to start adding.
I would opt for leave without pay. because
Yeah, I like that
think,
too.
Okay,
I like that too.
I think leave of absence, has a lot of legal connotations to it.
yeah, that's what I thought too. Leave of absence seems to be, I mean, that's almost like sabbatical, where you could give people a year off to go do something. So I was leaning toward the leave without pay, but I wanted to ask you about it. Okay, so that, that's going back, unless you had other questions about what edits we talked about and I made. I tried to catch all of the selectmen lines and all those things that we talked about going through it. And I'll look again, obviously, when we get all done. Other
I'll
than
be
that,
honest with you. I didn't have a chance to get to your,
okay,
to
well,
review.
okay.
I,
What I would proposes that we continue. And, you know, obviously you can look at what I've changed already and we can come back to it, but we're down to jury duty
Yeah,
on that page. I don't think there's any change to jury duty. That's still pretty much the same. That's a standard policy that, hey, we'll make up whatever the difference is in your pay, basically, between the $14 a day or whatever you get for jury duty.
yeah, I think it's fine. I think that's pretty standard practice too.
And then the alcohol controlled substance and harassment policies and sexual harassment, those are fairly recent in this document because we, when we had the difficulty with the, in the ambulance department, we went back and looked at our policy and realized it didn't say enough. So, and I made those changes. So I don't know, oh, and I don't have the list of changes in front of me, but you might, if you've got that section, you might look and see when we actually made those changes. But I don't think they're that old, and I don't believe they've changed, other than the fact that, you know, I saw what you sent, Walter, to the lawyer for a look, and I think that's certainly certainly worth relooking at and reconfirming that it hasn't changed. Any thoughts on those?
So what was your suggestion to send this to the lawyer as well?
You know, I wish I could tell you, John, where I got these from when we made the change, but I think it was out of some state level policy, because I ended up putting this, and I also put it in the personnel policy for the Tri-Town transfer station. Walter, you probably read if you look at that one, they pretty much read the same, because we didn't have that clear in that policy either. But I can't remember where I got them from. But I know that I didn't make them up, and they either came from a state or federal government document.
Well, and Kristen was involved in that whole
Yeah,
scenario.
yes.
You know, I'm trying to remember exactly the extent. Whether she gave us any language.
So I'm just, and I'm trying to like pay attention and pull stuff up. So I'm not sure if the history that I'm looking at is, you know, how we had that whole December, you know, which one are we actually on? But this says January 22nd, 2009, the following amendments were added. And that was Article XV, which is 15, alcohol controlled substance policy. So that was added in. It looks like the harassment was added in at the same time. Definition of sexual harassment. Municipality doesn't tolerate. Ways to take action. And then also Article 2, employment, the NIMS training was added in there as well at that same time. But so it looked like January of 2009 is when those controlled substances harassment were added in.
So there's nothing subsequent to that? Because
There are 11.
Oh no, there's more subsequent to that, but that's when it first showed up in our history. Yeah, there's additional, so December 14th, 2009, sick leave was changed. Employee classification was amended.
Yeah, go to the 2011,
you want to get into
the
the
2014 timeframe.
Yeah, so 2011 was when the employee classification was amended to read full-time employee works 30 hours or more per week on a continuous basis. That's when 2011 also when shellfish was added. There was a change to the sick leave, change to health insurance, more changes to Georges River, and then additional ones at a separate time also in 2011. So there was at least, so one change revision in June of 11, another revision of September 11, another revision October of 11, And then it jumps to 2014 is when additional changes were made after that.
What did we do in 14?
14 was vacation. Kind of lays out the full-time employees after 1 year shall be entitled to, and then it goes through that. It's now changed to read.
Okay, you don't have to read the changes.
Yeah, no, I'm not. And then 16 was equal opportunity. In May of 2016, equal opportunity language was added. That reference to the main criminal history record information may be reviewed as a condition of employment. That was added also in 16. Overtime in the work week was addressed. Oh, and then yes, again, the alcohol and controlled substances policy was again amended in 2016. So it's put in 11 and amended again in 16.
Yeah, I think that's the 16 has got to be the one I'm referring to because it hasn't been, I wasn't here at 9. It hasn't been that long. But there hasn't been any change to it since 16. So, you know, obviously we're what, 5 years down the road since then. So I'm not adverse to having Kristen look at it one more time and make sure we're still in compliance with everything.
And
What
then just,
has changed since then is there obviously are references to like the LGBT topic.
it looks like just from scrolling up and down here in the history, and I'm sorry, I said 11, but it wasn't. It was 2009 is when alcohol controlled substance was first added in. It looks like the difference between the 2009 and the 2016 is the referencing of that 1989 law. When we initially put it in, that law was not referenced. And then in 2016, when it was reviewed again, reference to that controlled substances alcohol law of 1989 or 88 was then added in.
Okay.
Okay, so how about we send all of Article 16 to Kristen?
Yeah, I was just, I'm fine with that. I was just looking at St. George's policy that Owen had sent us, and it's, to my surprise, it's actually less detailed than ours. And I was gonna take a quick look at Thomaston. Because I do think this ties into that discipline termination.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you read under the alcohol controlled substance, of course, there's a sentence in that first paragraph A that says violation of this policy can lead to immediate suspension with pay by the immediate supervisor without notice or hearing. That's kind of what that line that Walter said. Similarly, it says, where did I see it again? In the sexual harassment one, the Article 16, the last sentence again says something about it's ill. Well, it's a little different in there because it talks about, the second paragraph says you cannot be legally retaliated against or disciplined for taking this action, which is reporting it. Maine Human Rights Act protects you from retaliation. And then the last paragraph under policy of harassment says it's illegal for a coworker or supervisors to sexually harass an employee. Then it goes into definition of sexual harassment.
And just while you all are reviewing this, so like I've explained to you before, because of the language around the shellfish warden and knowing that you all wanted to do this, 2 birds, 1 stone, I just tried to grab as many personnel policies from the Georges River Collective kind of catchment to have you all see how other towns are wording some of these things. If you aren't necessarily seeing kind of what you like as some potential options there, I'm more than happy to see if there are other towns that have a more recent revision to that and can grab their personnel policies for kind of food for thought on how you might want to word some of these sections. So just let me know.
I feel I have enough. If I want more, I could, at the moment.
Yeah.
I actually just looked at Thomason's suspension and discharge, and I quite like that, actually. Very. Oh, well.
I mean, that's the whole point of providing those. I mean, if there's,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
might have to fiddle, references and like make sure that we're not like double referencing or referencing something that doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
a
I
lot
know.
of towns are thoughtful. They have really good wording, and there's nothing that says we can't grab that and plug it in for us.
Yeah, we don't even seem to have a paragraph or an article that talks about just, poor performance, getting rid of somebody for poor performance.
I think we do. That's more sort of that incremental.
It started with the verbal warning. I can't remember exactly what section, but it starts with the verbal warning and then goes from there.
Yeah, it says if an employee, back on the F, under Article 2, it says if an employee's performance falls below the supervisor's level of expectation, the employee will be given an oral warning. Failure to, it's sort of that, progressive.
Right.
Yeah. But what I liked about Thomaston's is they kind of separate that progressive, poor performance into one category, if you will, and then, but if you do this, you can be charged immediately. And then they list the things that could, you got to have a notice and hearing, but they list the things that you could be immediately discharged for. It's kind of where we sort of lump them together.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to revisit that, that paragraph F?
Yeah. Thomaston's is quite, we were bouncing this up against, and I know we already sent it to Christian, and I was in favor of that, but, they have a list of about 6 or maybe more things that employee may be suspended or discharged for cause for any single incident, including but not limited to theft, assault, sabotage. Although they put in incompetency and inefficiency, I think that's probably shouldn't be, but disobedience of a supervisor, intoxication, conviction of a crime. I'd be careful with that. Recklessness on the job, dishonesty, fraudulently obtaining any form of leave, violation of the town's harassment policy. I'm not saying their list is perfect. I just like the way the format they use, I think
They're more specific than we are.
yeah, I think it's important that employees, be clearly forewarned, if you will, that if you violate XYZ, you can potentially be let go at the notice and hearing immediately, and that's sort of, so they can't give the defense, well, I didn't know that this could lead to that. But we're getting a long way from alcohol and drug abuse.
Yeah, what I'd recommend is let's wait and see what Kristen comes back with.
Yeah.
And then based on that, I can go back and look at the Thomason policy and try and, meld it into at least the format as you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe so you don't screw up all the articles, we could make F, we could have F1 and F2 or something,
Yeah. Or just subparagraphs of F, which is discipline and termination. Yeah, format I can work on. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, back to page 6, the alcohol. You want to take which Article 15, Article 16, which is harassment, and let Kristen look at those?
Yep, that's the note I made.
Okay.
Just what your day.
Yeah, yes, that's fine with me.
Okay.
I want to look, I want to take a second and look at the smoke-free workplace.
Okay, okay, well, that's what it would bring us to then. We'd be to Article 17,
Right.
smoke-free workplace policy.
So this allows smoking on town property. If you're 20 feet from any workplace entry, vent, window, or doorway.
That's correct.
Are we okay with that?
Well, we're in compliance with the laws if we allow that. So it's just a matter of, I mean, if you're gonna ask, for example, if you're a per diem and you smoke, what are you gonna do? Ask them to go stand across the road?
No, I'm not suggesting it. I just wanted to make sure we were aware that we do allow it. And, you know, I also think you could have guys that work for Jimmy Callick who are out back, you know, could be smoking. I guess I'm okay with it. 20 feet doesn't seem very far to me, but
I mean, I can try to, I mean, it references state statute. You know, keep having your discussion. I'll pull that real quick and just see if 20 feet wasn't arbitrary and if that's what was, you know, kind of described. And the only other thing I might suggest is, you know, if you are going to allow smoking, which doesn't bother me, but it's your all's choice, maybe some reference to the policing of their own cigarette butts.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah, that seems to be-
detritus a problem?
Say that again.
If I walk around the building, am I gonna find tons and tons of cigarette butts?
No, what you're gonna find is there is like one area that you will find them not consolidated and kind of flicked into the woods that's out back. But on other areas, you will find butt cans that get emptied from time to time. We don't have as many smokers as maybe when I first got here. So I don't see those being utilized as much anymore, but yeah, it was like a big coffee can that people were using as a butt container. So they're not broadcast all around. There is the one spot where people typically just kind of out back, they flick them into the woods or onto the skirt or whatever.
Yeah, 20 feet might be too short. 50 is kind of the limit that you know, we don't want the per diems all the way across the street in case the fire alarm, the tones go off. By the way, Owen, are you on? No. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm.
Is the ambulance fixed?
Yes.
my other question is, should we include vaping in this?
Yeah, I don't know. This refers to tobacco products, so I'm not sure. We'd have to add, I think, a section on vaping if you're gonna.
Huh.
1 second. Hello? Yeah, neither St. George or Thomason seem to define that feet.
Yeah, I think many places had smoking areas in the past.
So I'm gonna just real quick. Here is that section of statute that we reference, 1580A, smoking in place of employment.
It does
Here's
have 20 feet
yeah, that 20 feet where, yeah, right
right
here.
there. Also
Um,
at least.
Well, it says at least.
Yep, and so if this is where you all home rule, you can make it more
Yeah.
restrictive if you want to.
I don't know, just being a former smoker, 20, I can smell a cigarette very tastefully at 20 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
But just so you know, I mean, that is under definitions. This 20 feet is under definitions, and it's under the definition of designated smoking area. And that, to be honest, I don't know if we have a quote unquote designated smoking area. Maybe for the smokers, they know that it's like an informal thing. I don't know, but just to be clear, that is within a definitions reference right there for a very defined designated smoking area.
Now, I propose we double it to 40 feet.
I'm okay with that.
Again, how do we police this? I mean, I don't even know how we police 20 feet.
I just think it gives the supervisor some teeth to say, hey, guys, or hey, Mr. So-and-so, the policy says 40 feet, you got to move out a little. And I don't think it's going to be a big compliance issue. I really don't. It might be more with the public.
Have a good one.
Yeah, I mean, as far as cigarette butts that I've noticed around where the public goes, they seem to be generated by the public. Any employees are doing things not in view of the public, they'll probably be out back in a handful of feet, 20 feet or so away from the building.
Yeah, this policy
Yeah.
just wouldn't apply to the public anyway.
I think it does. Don't we have you can't smoke in the building? I mean, I know it's not through the personnel policy, but we have a policy that doesn't allow smoking in the building, I believe.
I don't know that it's written down anywhere.
Well, I feel like it's written down though, but in the community room, Paul, I don't know if it's in the personnel, but like if you're renting the community room, that clearly states that you can't smoke in there, but I don't think that I've seen it anyplace else. But that's not even us. That's now federal and state law, the no smoking indoors.
Right. So I just propose to change it at 40 feet and leave it alone. That's my.
I'm
And
good with that.
I think the enforcement issue, Jan, is the same at 20 feet as it is at 40 feet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know how we enforce 20 feet either, so. But I don't have an objection to changing it to 40 feet. I just,
And just things to think about as you think about enforcement. If you actually do have a defined designated smoking area, then a modest receptacle that they sell for the collection of cigarette butts, that would probably the best thing that you could do as far as enforcing things, because then you have clearly said, if you're smoking, this is the area to do it. And if folks are choosing to not be in that designated area, it's pretty clear at that point. But when we don't have a designated area, it's now open to interpretation, I guess.
okay. Yeah, and I go back to, I think what you said, Owen, I'm sure that, John, that there is a state or federal policy that says, government buildings, are smoke free. I know there's a federal law to that effect. I would assume that.
Oh,
state-
definitely.
But that if you're a private citizen, you walk right up to the front door of the town office and flick your cigarette butt. I mean, you talk about smelling people smoking, you can walk into the town office when there's somebody standing at the counter and smell the smoke. Okay, well, I made the change anyway. We'll change it to 40.
Good.
And I put a question by vaping. If I just read what Owen had up there, that did not apply. It didn't say anything about vaping. In fact, it was rather specific that applied to tobacco products. So I don't know if the state has done anything now about vaping or updated it. Nothing in there at this time. Okay, moves us to grieving procedures, which is just kind of a standard grievance.
Well, I did have a thought on this. Typically, if you have a complaint You guys there?
Yep.
Oh, I lost. You've got to work your way up through your supervisor, up the chain of command. And this allows everybody to go directly to the Board of Selectmen. So I bring that up as a question. Certainly, anybody who is supervised directly by the select board can come directly to the select board because they have no one else to go to. But I think, are we sort of encouraging a violation of the chain of command in the ambulance and fire, I'm thinking in particular, but also in the front office, by granting someone, initial rights to go right to the Board of Selectmen without first trying to. And usually these types of policies also have an informal thing where you encourage something to be worked out informally between the supervisor and but I'm more worried about the chain of command issue.
It would be
Yeah, a direct access to the select board disempowers the first level manager to some extent, in my opinion.
I think it would be easy to add in there that sentence where it says in writing, or right after the word writing, through your department supervisor, department head / to the Board of Selectmen, or to the select board, if we're going to change it. We could easily make that have to be routed through. And then within 30 days after the select board receives the grievance, we'd have 30 days to render a decision.
So in other words, it would still come directly to us, but it would go. So, I mean, typically, the way if let's say someone in the ambulance, per diem has a complaint in the ambulance, they go to Amy with try to work something out informally. If they can't, they put it informally in writing, and then Amy has so many days to respond. And then if they're still unsatisfied, then they can appeal to the Board of Selectmen. But you're talking about just having them go directly to the select board, but just through Amy.
Yep. That was the intent of this. And again, I kind of go back to when we used it with the ambulance, without going into any non-public kind of stuff here. We had an issue there where the department head didn't forward things to the select board, and the victim felt that they weren't satisfied with the results. The department head felt they were satisfied with the results, and it got out of hand before the select board even heard about it. So
Okay.
I like the fact that chain of command certainly has the opportunity to act on it, and could even say what they did in their endorsement, go up to the select board, or maybe even resolve, say, hey, this has been resolved, and I believe that, that there's no action by the select board. But I think the ability to stop it short of the select board can easily create problems for us.
Okay, I'm good with that.
My thoughts.
Yeah, that was painful.
I'll put that in there, some words to the effect that, again, through their supervisor and department head.
Then whenever you all are done with that, I do have an update on some smoking stuff, but I want to
Well,
not stop your flow.
not quite done with this.
Yep.
So I think this ties into kind of whistleblower stuff, which I don't think people should be cut off, which I think is a little different. And I wonder, we don't really address that, and I wonder if we should. I think it was Thomaston or St. George did. Yeah, Thomaston does. And I throw that out as a question. I'm not trying to, I know we're still a small town and I'm not trying to overcomplicate things, but I think sometimes I feel you know, you want to make sure people feel comfortable if they think something is wrong, that they can bring it and their supervisor isn't dealing with it, that they can bring it. And this is nothing against our current supervisors. We're writing this for.
You know,
Um,
John, this came up, very similar came up during that same incident I'm talking about. The question is, did we have a suggestion box or anything where people could, a lot of places have like a safety box where people can put an anonymous note in there on any safety concerns they have. But the town didn't have any way for someone anonymously, and in this case, an observer of something that was not appropriate, not the victim, to actually speak up unofficially, without, face to face coming to the select board. I wouldn't object to a whistleblower, section in there. We could even incorporate it into this paragraph.
Well, that's what I was thinking, rather than have a separate article.
Yeah.
I just feel people need an avenue to express frustrations, particularly when it comes to safety, and particularly if they feel like, I brought it up 3 or 4 times and I'm just getting blown off here,
Yep.
I agree. I think that the fact that we're so remote, we're not there every day. That makes having
Yeah.
an avenue more important.
Yeah.
And you said, John, that was in the Thomaston.
Yeah, and I don't know, I didn't look at the St. George one, but
I'll look at it.
so I'm not necessarily endorsing the Thomason one. I just noticed they had it in there, and that's what made me think about it. But I've learned, nothing's a problem till it's a problem.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Okay, well, I can, I'll look at that and see if I can add some words in there to get it back out to you with the changes.
And real quick, while that's settling in, I'm happy to show you in state statute, but the language that we have up here in the smoke-free workplace, smoking of tobacco products. So what I would show you if you wanted tobacco products as per state statute is now defined as including e-cigarettes or vaping devices that deliver nicotine. It's not specific to the tobacco. So I believe, and maybe that's a Kristen question as well, but tobacco products specifically is now redefined. It was redefined in 2020 to include vaping. So I don't believe you can make specific reference if you want to do the belt and suspenders and make it super clear. But the way that I'm reading this, you currently are covering vaping along with all of your other tobacco products.
Is that in that same law, Owen, or do we need?
No,
to change
it
reference?
changed. I had to search it separately. Hang on one sec.
Maybe we want to put that, leave the wording the same, but add that law up in the first paragraph there.
Yeah, and maybe put in a little parenthetical note as defined by state statute.
So this reference is as required by law. So it's also within Title 22, but it's a different section. We reference 1580. As you can see over here, this is 1551 under definitions. And when you go down here to tobacco products, means any product that is made, derived from, blah, blah, blah. And where the heck was it? Also means, so this is the new tobacco product quote, also means an electronic smoking device.
Yep.
So, and there, I think I would have to spend a little more time. And again, it really is your all's comfort on how descriptive or not you want to be. I believe that if I did some research in a haphazard way, the section that we reference already in the personnel policy, then spiders, because that section references another section and that section references another section. So they're all connected. So it's all there, but it's just not very described. in our specific personnel policy.
But I could do, as John said, on item A, smoking of tobacco products, then we could insert something like as defined in section 1551,
Yep.
you know. So if you could give me that reference, that 1551 reference, I'll insert that in there.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to, so that it doesn't get too confused up, I'm just going to send you individually, Jan, this section of statute.
Okay. So that would be the same thing. It'd be 22 MRSA, only it would be section 1551.
Yep, it'll still be the 22 because it's all under Title 22.
Yep.
But it would be section 1551. Yep.
Okay. And then whatever
And
that,
then, yeah, it would be 1551. 1551 3. So 1551 parentheses 3, because that
Yep.
one is specific to tobacco products redefined.
okay, I'll stick that in there.
And just because, just to close that out real quick, this is, so the Public Health Law Center has these connections to some e-cigarette stuff. I went and looked in these. I wasn't really finding much, but here was the definition section. So
Yep.
that's what's referenced up here.
Good. I think that covers it, John. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, no, I am.
Yep, so you expanded it to 40 feet. We're doing that reference. And then kind of just on the operational end for the enforcement stuff, the purchasing of maybe a sign and post that says designated working or smoking area and having a butt container or something would help with enforcement if that's an avenue that you want to go. But we can't really enforce whether or not you've smoked in the defined area until we've given the employees a defined area.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. When you designate an area, it almost seems like you're encouraging. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. And you know, and I think we also, you know, we got guys that could be smoking out by the salt shed. We got potentially people smoking by the, I don't know. I just wonder if that overcomplicates it. That's my initial gut, but. And again, I think with most people, if the supervisor says to them, look, you gotta be 40 feet away from this door, this window, I don't think we're gonna have an issue.
I don't either. I think most smokers these days know that they're pariahs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just, you know, my observations in the time that I've been here, the employees have been respectful. It's been extremely infrequent that I've seen anyone smoking in front of the building. Like I said, it's almost always outside of view of the public, behind the building. So just, you know, from my observations, it's not really a broken system that we're trying to fix here.
No, yeah,
clear.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
Is that the, oh, there's one more article?
Yeah, one more article, 9, which is resignation. Well, it's actually, and then the Georges River.
Yeah, but we decided to delete all of Georges River, right?
Well, right, let me go back to my notes. I guess I didn't think we decided to do that. We
Oh, I
talked
thought we
about
did.
it.
I thought we did, because, and again, I don't think they're coming back to us for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that was the thought process, was reinstitute it when it comes back.
Yeah,
So delete it. I got it.
yeah.
So this is always amusing. If approved, the resignation shall be effective, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm resigning. Well, I don't accept your resignation. Well, I'm leaving anyway. But that's always the language, you know. We accept the resignation.
You want to say once approved instead of if approved?
Oh, that's good wordsmithing, Jan.
Well, and actually, I think, having looked at this closely, I think the timing's a problem. I mean, if someone gives us 2-week notice and we're not meeting for, say, 10 days, the way it's written now is they can't leave until 2 weeks after we approve it.
Right. You're
So
right.
that would be 2 weeks and 10 days.
I mean, two weeks does give you time to notice a meeting, whether or not you can get a quorum. But you know, that does give you a week of scheduling and a week of notice to have that and accept it. Just trying to, you know, throw out some scenarios and what it looks like on the ground end.
Yeah, but let's face it, as a practical matter, Walt is right. If someone's resigning, they're gonna resign. The only teeth we would have over anybody at all is the 3 positions that have vacation. I mean, we could, you know, hold that as a threat if someone violated, you know what I mean? But other than that, we're not gonna sue them.
Well, I mean, I feel like you kind of the discrepancies here, right? All employees resigning shall give 2 weeks notice, right? But then the 2 weeks for it to be effective is after it's approved, if approved. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
if approved, the
just-
resignation shall be effective no less than 2 weeks after initial notification, then that reroutes you back to when the employee initially said, I'm done. I mean, are we basing, if you want to base everything off of something, it should be when the board received the written 2 weeks notice. And then if you approve it 1 day before, you know, it still is going to go on when the employee gave you that written notice and not 2 weeks
Yeah.
after the board approves it.
I guess I don't like the whole article. I don't like the fact that it says the employees shall make their request. If I'm resigning, I'm resigning. I'm not asking you permission.
Did you see any better language in any of the other, like the St. George or Thomas?
I
thing?
think, I didn't look, but I think we can make it very simple. All employees resigning from the service of the town shall give a written 2-week notice.
Period. End of story.
I like that.
Good.
The appointed employee separate out and take, you know, when we would approve it. Just the first sentence, all employees resigning.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and I think you can take all appointed and just do employees, you know, will make that written request to their immediate supervisor. Now, for me as an appointee, my immediate supervisor is you all, but for Phil and Anna, I'm their immediate supervisor. So maybe you don't even have to differentiate appointed or hired. It's just employees to their immediate supervisor, and that kind of covers everyone from the per diems on up to your department heads.
Yeah.
I think, unless there's some sort of weird nuanced language around, but I mean, it's appointed employees. So I think if you just did the employee, you know, shall make their written request in 2 weeks notice to their immediate supervisor, that kind of covers all your bases.
I don't know the difference between an appointed employee and an employee there.
Because you've like, so when Amy says, I want a new ambulance hire, you all are approving her hire, but you're not appointing those folks. You're just simply telling your department head, I approve of this hire. Thanks for giving me the chance. It's in our policy. The appointed folks, it's a very deliberative action with a motion and a second that reflects the appointment with a very specific period of time that they're appointed to. But I mean, and Walter and Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall any of Brian's new firefighters or Amy's new ambulance folks, or even the hiring of Anna that specified a defined period of time. But all of your appointees, all of your department heads, it is the first
Right.
meeting after the town meeting in the following year. So I
Yep.
think
Yeah.
that's the differentiating.
I still like just having the first sentence.
Yeah, I think you could cover it. I do think we need to add who you submit it to, because I think to just say employees resigning from service to the town shall give a written 2-week notice. Okay, to who?
Yeah, I like the immediate supervisor.
I think, yeah, I would go with immediate supervisor, which covers people like Owen. I mean, it covers everybody.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, got it.
And then before you, I mean, you still have time to keep working on this. So just maybe over time, we might come across resignation language in another town that
Yeah.
seems to fit. But for right now, I think that covers what you're looking for.
Yeah. And before we go, there's a couple of items that I don't necessarily want to wordsmith today, but I just want to bring up to see if you feel that we should include them. One is, if we're done with the resignation, are we?
Yep.
One is we don't address the Family Medical Leave Act at all, and I think we need to. And I'll just leave it at that. There's some pretty good language in the St. George one, because there are some things in the Family Medical Leave Act that where you're supposed to, as a local person, you're supposed to set sort of like, dates of when things are counted from and stuff like that. We don't address at all military leave for training and stuff, and I wonder if we should. I know the St. George policy does.
Also, the domestic partners, remember when we were doing the health,
Yeah.
the dental?
That was another
Yeah.
one on my list. Do we need to talk about domestic partners? And the other and final thing was, do we want to deal with this sort of growing issue of social media?
I think we have that somewhat covered in our computer policy.
Do we? Yeah, but should it be in here?
So I did a little research. Remember, we had, just a very kind of minor issue a couple of months back. I
I
did
do.
some research on
I
it.
do.
I found that in other towns and cities' personnel policies, and what became a little confusing is it seemed to be anyway that almost most of those policies were written for executive branch folks that were engaging in social media. And then John and Jane Q. Public know that Jan Gaudio is a member of the select board, and Jan says on Facebook, I support no dogs in town. And then everyone's thinking, oh, well, great, the town has made the decision, no dogs in town. It didn't seem to be more towards the employees and them just, having maybe their political opinions be misinterpreted or something like that. So I had pulled up some information. I think I sent it to you. I'll resend it. But just as you go about looking at it, is this a catch-all for everyone from the executive branch, Walter Jan John, all the way through department heads and per diems and everyone else and all the appointees? Or do you want to have it be two different bins, elected official bin and, employed or appointed other separate bin? And you'll kind of see a little bit of what I'm talking about when I resend that information, but that was something that came up. A lot of it seemed to be for these council members or select board members that were kind of indicating to the public that certain things were going to change, but they're one of 5 or one of 3, and it's not. And so it was almost like the board or the council themselves kind of saying, hey, members, you all need to mind your P's and Q's. And they did it more for themselves than necessarily the employees, because you get into weird free speech stuff, but where does it go too far? I'm allowed to say I love Donald Trump, or I love Joe Biden, or I love anyone. But when do you get to that disparagement, inappropriate comments, things reflecting poorly on the town? That's more of your employee bin. So just some things to think about. It's weird for everyone. I feel like I reached out to MMA, and they are also, I don't even think that MMA from memory has a good template on this yet, which is a little weird, because social media is in, hey, we are like behind on the times on this. Like, you all should have some sort of basic template language on this. Social media's been around for a while. It's not going anywhere.
No, and the stuff you sent us was more, it really didn't hit the nail on the head from the stuff you sent us from MMA. And maybe
No.
I'll leave it alone. And I understand it's a tricky wicket. I mean, it's a balance between how you as a representative of the town and your individual rights. I get that. It's not an easy subject.
Well, it sounds like the platform owners are going to do all of the determination on what's appropriate and isn't anyway.
But we do have language that says, Amy has it in her SOPs, we have it in here that your conduct shall, so what do we mean by that in a social media sense,
We have Article 6, Section A. Employees are prohibited from engaging in any conduct that could reflect unfavorably upon the town or disrupt operations of the town. So we
Right,
have that
and-
language. It's certainly subject to broad interpretation.
It is, and we certainly wouldn't allow someone, and I'm not picking on the ambulance, but we wouldn't allow someone in the ambulance to have a T-shirt that said, I don't know, I can't think of anything, like FU or something at work, right? And
Right, Amy has that in her SOP that I'm drafting too.
yeah, and so I don't know. And I guess there's also a difference between what you do at time of work and what you do off hours too. So it's a tricky wicket. I don't deny that. And maybe we just want to ignore it. I don't know.
I think the whole country's grappling with that topic in one way or another right now. So
Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
it's too hot to handle.
And I'll resend it, and I don't want to bog us down, but this was Bangor's. It was one of the few use of social media policies that I could find. Can you all see that? And I mean, you can read over this, but just from memory, it seemed to be written more for those executive branch folks.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sending it. Again, I'm not prepared to wordsmith any of that. I'm just bringing it up as something we might want to consider. All of those items, although I definitely think we need to address the Family Medical Leave Act.
Yeah, I'll look at what St. George has on it.
And I think it's only going to apply to the three office employees, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, we probably could put that right into that same section again where we just did the earned paid leave. Article 13.
Yeah.
And that was just body of the email I just sent was the Bangor language plus a link if you wanted to look at it, just more information.
Okay.
And I can't remember because I asked around. Bangor is the only one that I could find. I'm not saying that the other cities or towns haven't done it, but
Well, when you get a chance, though, and pull out our computer policy, will you? Because I know there is some wording in there. Of course, it only applies to using, during working hours, using our computers and so on. which
Yeah,
they
that
do
might
have
be.
to know.
But even if it's in there, I don't think, and it's perfect, I don't think it would hurt to put it in here because again, I see this as serving as sort of like an employee manual as well as a personnel policy,
Yeah, but again, John, I think it'll only apply if they're using our computers or during
Yeah.
working hours.
I think you might be right, but I think we definitely, when people are working, I think that obviously, even if they're using their telephones to post something, that's something we could, have a role in, you know what I mean?
That
Yep.
would be time. That would be timestamp.
and just I have not verified that this was the most recent one. I've learned from my mistakes. It's that
I think it is.
the most recent one, but this is what I just pulled up real quick.
Could you send that to me again, Owen?
Yes, what I'm going to do though is I am going to again learn from my mistakes. Let me spend a little time making sure
Yeah,
that
make sure it's the
current
latest
one.
one.
Yep, exactly. I don't want to confuse anything. So let me define that and I will send you what I believe to be our current computer use policy.
Thank you.
There's a couple of versions in there and this was the most recent timestamp on it, but Made that error before.
I hate to ask if you had the signed original copy.
Well, this is a Word doc, so it's not going to be in this one. So personal use, software, hardware, games, screensaver, electronic mail, sorting, transferring documents, internet. I mean, so just, I haven't read all of this, but you know, this prohibition includes information on social media. I don't know exactly how that relates. Passwords, security, employee termination. Employees who leave employment have no right to the contents of their emails. Okay. Penalties, acceptance. So this says that it was 2015. This again was the Word doc, but this says June 2015 with Walter, Jan, and Cheryl.
Yeah, and it's on the old letterhead that still has Dorothy on it too.
Yep. So like I said, it's a little muddle fuddled up. I pulled it up real quick. So let me spend some time with it and I'll get you the current. But whatever it is, the current is, it was built off of this. So this is generally what we're doing here. But I would agree that having some reference within the personnel policy is not a poor idea.
Right there in users, that second paragraph, last sentence, it says the town also reserves the right to monitor and remove any hardware, software, data, emails, social media contact files. I remember we talked about it. It's not much in there, but there's some in there.
Well, that's just, I mean, I've just, you know, playing devil's advocate. This is First Amendment stuff. Social media content as it relates to, say, for example, if the town had a Facebook page and, you know, curmudgeon person who had credentials, but then you made them upset or whatever, they go through and they post something on the town's Facebook page.
Right.
Absolutely, we can do that. But they post something on their personal page saying, Walter, Jan, and John are horrible people, blah, blah, blah. That's just kind of freedom of, it's a really weird, and that's why everyone's been having a trouble time with this. Freedom of speech is a very important part of this
Yeah.
country's history. So
We're talking about the town's information system. So we're talking about town computers and town,
yeah.
Yeah.
town, like you said, a town Facebook page.
But you know, I leave the town, and or even before I leave, let's say, you know, right now while I'm still currently employed, and I get huffy and I put a bunch of stuff on my Facebook page. Do you all have the recourse to somehow censure me or not, or otherwise?
No,
Yeah, I mean, if I said lies, you could come at me personally, you know, civil for disparagement or something like that. But it's a weird thing, nothing that we're going to solve right now. And I think
Yeah.
that the federal government might need to weigh into the judicial system on this somehow.
only the CEOs of Twitter and Google and so on can do that.
Yeah, they're more important than the Supreme Court sometimes.
Well, you know, and if that's true, then maybe we should strike all this language that says you act in a manner that's not unbecoming.
No, I don't think it's like it.
So anyway, I'm being a little facetious, but
No, I know you are.
You know,
So Owen,
yes, sir.
while I'm looking at my notes, if I came into the office tomorrow, could you hand me a how-to manual for WordPress? How to update our website?
I could. I would end up printing it off from some publicly available whatever.
Okay.
What we did.
My real question is, we have to train your successor in the new technology, and I'm trying to figure out what the best way to do that is.
Yep. So what we have is we have the existing relationship still with the folks that built it. They would be happy to, you know, take more of our money to train that person individually. What we did retain from the training was a video. It was like a close to an hour long training session with Dream Locals trainer. And it was myself and Molly Hooper. And we captured all of that training session in the video. So we have access to that. That said, it is a relatively easy to understand, doesn't take too much. And then also there were things that I was trained up on, pretty easy to do. There were some new thingies that we wanted to do, and I hadn't been trained on those. Chelsea, did the and you're a dum dum, which is, hey, there's a program called Google, and you type in how to create a new X, Y, and Z in WordPress, and she was able to do that pretty seamlessly. So the whole point with WordPress is it's relatively straightforward, pretty user friendly. But yeah, absolutely, we can pull something together for the incoming.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that? Do either Phil or Anna have any knowledge of how to do it currently?
I was doing most of that with Chelsea. Anna and I have gone over the website a bit. Phil, I have, because of the complexity of his job and how much he's already doing, I have very much shied away from troubling him with that. But the Anna Chelsea position has some pretty good knowledge on that. Yep.
Yeah, well, I was just wondering if maybe a few minutes with Anna, because she strikes me as very comfortable with this type of stuff, so.
Absolutely, and just, I mean,
A few minutes with her might pay dividends, huge dividends.
Yep, and then just a reminder is in the contingency that was put into the administrative budget last year did include some monies, can't remember exactly how much it was, but that was for Molly Hooper to assist in any website updates, patches, and things like that. Molly also does have credentials to access our website. Like I said, she did the training with me. So in the event I got hit by a bus, we needed to put Brian's new applications on there. I attempted to do it myself. It was weird because of the PDFs and things weren't showing up. So I reached out to Molly, said, hey, I'm having trouble with this. She helped me with it. So reminder to everyone, I get hit by a bus tomorrow and no one else can figure out how to do it. Molly Hooper is the person that you would reach out to in the interim.
Got it. Okay. That's good. I think we'll, talk about engaging Molly to go through the training with both Terry and Anna.
Well, and also I think, Walter, remind me, Owl's Head, South Thomaston Transfer Station might be liaisoning with Molly about your all's building of a website. So you might be able to just kind of stack some of these conversations for some of your other work.
Good. Okay. All right. Anything else? A lot of progress, a lot of good thought.
So we have an agenda coming out this week?
Yeah, I was going to touch base with Walter when we were done and kind of go over that and work on setting the agenda for next week.
Yeah, how about a call at 3? How's that work for you?
Works for me.
Okay.
So if I have any requests or thoughts, just send them to you, Owen?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. I don't think I do off the top of my head, but.
Jan, anything off the top of your head either?
No, nothing for the agenda, but just FYI, I'll be out of town for the next 3 days, starting tomorrow. Available by cell phone, but I'll be out of here.
Wear all the right clothes.
No, it's not snowmobiling. I don't know if you got it. But
Was
thanks.
there a lot of damage from that windstorm last week?
I got a tree down here on my property. Fortunately, it fell into the water. There were a few trees and limbs down, but no loss of power, at least out here in Spruce Head that I heard of.
Yeah, surprisingly few losses of power throughout
Well,
the county.
the wind came out of the east, so we were sheltered over here on kind of the southwest side.
Yeah,
The trees aren't used to that east wind blowing so strong, so I think the weak trees tended to get hit.
yeah, we had maybe the highest surf I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because
I saw that.
we have that long due east fetch.
Yep.
And that's where it came from.
Somebody sent me a picture of the Penn Bay pilot of the waves crashing over the new bridge and causeway going to the island. I guess it was pretty wild.
Yes. Yeah.
Wait,
Flashover.
so that the bridge leading onto Spruce Head Island?
Yeah.
The waves were crashed. So, and I wish that I had thought about this. I would have really, especially with this being an off directional storm, I would have really been interested to see what our inundation sites for the Island Road project looked like, or get any sort of feedback as to that different non-typical storm pattern, what that meant for us or would look like.
Yeah, the area down by the Village Road, that off to the left side there where it's kind of marshy,
Mhm.
water was right up to the road there.
Yeah, so that's the other angle that we don't typically get. Usually it's crashing on the hard Cars Beach side. And what we're getting on the road is a mixture of like the splash over. And it's hard to tell whether the waves are actually crashing over or it's just spray building up over time.
Yeah, it was both, I would say, at the bridge, but in by Village Road, it was really just the wind pushing the tide up in there. There wasn't any splash over or anything there.
Ooh, with that, I bet the Lobster Pound took a beating there because that's the same direction. Yeah.
The pound and the boats in front of the Lobster Pound over there at Maine Coast were really, really rocking and rolling.
So
Would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
I certainly would.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
All right, Jan,
I second and I approve.
John,
Yes.
Walter, yes. Thanks, Owen. Thanks, guys.
thank you all. And then
Thank you.
John, I'll take these notes from the meeting today and send them on over to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
Safe travels, Jan. Safe golfing, John.
Yeah, see ya. Bye.